Hi everyone and welcome to Valley View Living. My name is Megan. I have 6 children and we live on a small farm in New South Wales, Australia. We have a handful of animals here, pigs, cows, chickens. We homeschool our kids who are aged from baby, or I should say toddler now, 1 through to 14. So we've got all ages and stages going on here every day. Here I am starting my morning with a hot cup of tea. I'm enjoying the licorice tea at the moment. And then about mid-morning I tend to have a hot chocolate as well, just cacao powder, maple syrup and some warm frothy milk. But here you can see me stabbing away at this loaf of sourdough, as organised as I thought I was this morning. Look at me, I'm dressed and I'm up, but I did not defrost the bread last night, so it's made my It's made my attempt at a streamlined breakfast just a little bit harder. Don't try that at home. I don't want anybody to end up stabbed in the hospital from, spending a little bit of time with me here. But yeah, as you can see, it was pretty hard to get that bread sliced. I'm just getting the partially defrosted bits off the end. And what I'm doing this morning is making one of my favourite breakfasts for my kids. Eggy bread or French toast. I believe it is exactly the same thing. You can see me there just cracking the eggs. The reason why this is one of my favourites is that every one of my 6 kids, that's right, it's like drum roll, brrr, every single child eats this breakfast. So that's why it's one of my favourites. And I do find it pretty easy to make. I mean, there's a bit of standing and a bit of frying, but it's very satisfying because that means every child, even my picky children, and I do have especially one, I would say I have one especially picky child, and every one of them eats eggs with this meal. And I know eggs are just a powerhouse of nutrition and protein and minerals and vitamins and all that good stuff. So it niggles at me when there is a food like that a child completely omits from their diet. So if there's some way I can get them in, and I love that this child will eat eggs in this way. So it really is just a very simple, it's called a custard, but it's just eggs, milk. I put honey in this one, but I wouldn't actually do that next time because the honey browns and caramelizes just too much in the pan. It makes it look burnt. It's not burnt. It doesn't taste burnt, but it does go, it goes close to a black color because it's so highly caramelized. So I would use something like maple syrup or coconut sugar next time. But I also just put a dash of vanilla in there, makes it taste yummy. And a pinch of salt is good as well, although you don't need it if you're going to fry these up in butter, which of course you should. So I've got my little helper here with me, hanging out with me while I get this breakfast fried up for the troops. So when I am planning a breakfast like this, and when I'm getting myself ready for the day, I tend to the first thing that I'll do for my kids, because they do all wake up hungry, which means they do all wake up cranky, just spend a little bit of time with them, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, just catching up with them, having some cuddles and some talk, and they really just want to see me in the morning, which is lovely. It's quite flattering when you think about how much your kids want to be with you. So I do just take that few minutes time. They generally all pile into my bed, which kind of drives me crazy, but but I put up with it for them, okay? So just a few minutes and then I will go into the kitchen, and I don't just start cooking this breakfast straight away. I actually cut up a plate of apples and oranges, and I just give them some fruit while I go and make myself just feel a bit more put together, a bit more awake. And I find that if I get dressed and just, make myself feel awake by just brushing teeth, hair, all that kind of stuff, it just makes me feel much more ready, much more able to face the day. I've had so many, weeks, months, years of just hanging out in my tracksuit pants and my jumper, t-shirt, whatever, just comfortable mum gear. And absolutely, if you're in that season where that feels good and it's comfortable and that's all you want, then you have to do that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And I've had many periods of overwhelm in my life. My children were born pretty close together, and there have been periods, especially when I'm postpartum with a baby, where there's no way I'm going to wake up and actually get fully dressed in the morning. That was just not a thing. For a start, I may not have had anyone around to hold the baby for me to even get dressed. So it just was not worth my mental energy at that point in life. But now that my baby is nearing 2, I feel just a bit of extra energy, and I'm really enjoying being able to just get up and get dressed for reals, like as someone who's really going to be put together for the day. And I like being able to do that because this is my job. I'm getting dressed for my job. My job is taking care of my kids. It's taking care of my house. It's homeschooling. It's taking care of the animals on my property. It's all the home management things. That is my job, and it is a serious, important and valuable role. So I like to get myself into the mindset of let's get up and do this. Anyway, sorry, I just tend to ramble on, so thank you for bearing with me. We had an excess of cream in the fridge because of the bonus order we got in the groceries. So I just whipped up the cream by the kids' request with some maple syrup, and they are having that with their French toast this morning. You can see here I had a request there. My 3-year-old just asked straight up for a bowl of cream with some maple syrup on top, and that's totally fine. I knew she was going to come back for the eggy bread a little bit later. So yeah, I obliged with that for her. And then I'm just making a plate for my son here with plenty of cream and they like some drizzled honey on top of the eggy bread as well. And even though that plate looks almost as big as him, while I'm looking at it, he absolutely demolished it and finished every last scrap. Something I find so satisfying about a real protein-heavy breakfast like this, and this is served with sourdough bread, so that's a fermented grain as well. What I find so satisfying and rewarding about taking the time to cook this for my kids in the morning is that the result is they're very stable in their behaviour. They're much more calm. They are settled and energetic. They fight less. They disagree less. They complain less because they feel good. So on the mornings where I can't get a good breakfast like that together, and I'm kind of scrapping around and they just don't get the heavy protein, I can see such a huge difference in their behaviour. It really encourages me to keep it up with cooking those egg heavy breakfasts. So today is a Saturday, and on a Saturday I have a little extra time in the morning. I can slow down a bit and just spend some time actually hanging out with my kids. I don't have to fit school in those precious few hours after breakfast and before lunchtime. Generally on a weekday I have to cram in the schooling for 4 school-age children, and also manage to give my 2 little ones the attention that they need and deserve. So on a Saturday, it's lovely for me to just slowly walk around, take a walk outside, talk to my kids, try to give them that eye contact that they really crave, and really just slow down and listen to them, give them that time. And I really do enjoy it. I enjoy weekends in that way. We're not really a weekend activity family. It's something that when I'm looking at activities outside the home, if they fall on the weekend, it's something we really discuss quite heavily and think about and really picture. We have tried it before, and it's had quite an impact, a negative impact on the family as a whole. So generally weekend activities have not worked out that well. In saying that, there's plenty of opportunities for my kids during the week to take part in classes, groups and activities. So it's not something we've had to incorporate into our weekend, which is great. Now, I've just had some requests for a snack here. So I've come in and made a few quesadillas. We had some tortillas delivered in the mail that are really good quality and simple ingredients. So we're just using those. They're organic corn tortillas. They're basically just corn and salt. And I've just made the kids some quick cheese quesadillas there on the stove. And now for myself and my husband, and I think also my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old enjoy this as well, I'm just putting together a green smoothie. So they're very simple. I've cut the skin off 2 whole kiwi fruits, and placed them in my Pyrex jug here. Then I've put in half of that bag of spinach, which I guess is probably a cup to 2 cups, maybe 2 cups, I haven't measured it. And then just a handful of frozen banana, which makes it sort of amalgamate more smoothly and makes it nice and cold. I'm adding the supplements that are suitable for my body, so for my personal circumstances, which at the moment is some magnesium. That's pure magnesium from Mega Mag, and then some vitamin C in the form of camu powder. And there are many other natural powders you can use for that. Camu berries are just really potent, high in vitamin C, so they're ground up there. And I take that for my vitamin C supplement. And then I've just found one last little beef liver pill that I have opened up and popped in this green smoothie. Now I'm just pouring it into those glasses. I top it up with coconut water and just a little bit of orange juice as well. I also squeeze in the juice of a whole lemon. That is supposed to help us boost our iron intake from the spinach and also break down the oxalates in having spinach raw, so that it's less likely to cause you issues with kidney stones. Now, it also tastes delicious anyway, so I'll add lemon to anything. So I'm just showing you here what we've done with our cows. We live on a property that was designed with a large amount of lawn, and lawn needs a lot of upkeep. It needs a lot of mowing, and we're mostly interested in food production here. We're not really that interested in maintaining short grass just for looks or for enjoyment. So what we're trying to do here is strip graze our cattle, our small mob of cattle here, over the areas that haven't been mown for a while. And we are trying to use our cattle as lawn mowers here. So we have a solar electric line that we're rigging up onto these onto this portable fencing, and then we're just moving it around our property and slowly letting the cows eat all the grass instead of having to mow it, which at this time of year is kind of essential for us because our paddocks have been well eaten down. We're overstocked really, and we are buying so much hay. Wherever we can get the cows in, we will give them that grass for sure. Okay, I'm moving on to making our main meal of the day, which today is lunch. And I find that whenever possible, that works so well for my family. We really do well with a heavier, heartier lunch and then a lighter dinner. And it seems to keep my kids much more steady and stable, and probably myself as well, to be honest. If we have a light lunch, we are kind of grumpy and grouchy, and we just don't have as much energy than if we have a really filling nutritious lunch. A cooked hot lunch seems to do best. So I'm making Swedish meatballs today. I'm doing these gluten-free style. So to 1 kilogram of grass-fed beef mince here, and it's really nice if you use pork for half of this, but I've just got 100% beef here today. I'm adding in some onion flakes, some parsley flakes, 1 egg, 3 tablespoons of almond meal to help bind, and salt and pepper. Also, if you want to add grated parmesan into this, it's really delicious. Highly recommend. So I'm just going to mix that in and roll out those meatballs. It's really quite simple. You know, it's a really satisfying and very tasty lunch and filling, and it's a bit of a crowd pleaser too. I also serve this deconstructed, as I do most of my meals, because of there are so many personalities in my family, and I don't mind catering to them. So whenever somebody prefers a meal a different way, that's absolutely fine. So I will cook up the meatballs and serve them separately in one dish. I'm cooking linguine today to have with this, so I would just leave it as buttered noodles and people can serve that for themselves. And then I'll also just keep the cream sauce separate so that I can just ask each child what they would like, what components, or if they want the whole meal together, and I will serve them, and that's fine, that's easy for me. My aim is just to get as many people fed as much as possible, as often as the time. So I'm happy to work around that. That's a nice simple thing for me to do. So let's talk a little bit about postpartum depletion and motherhood and how much it truly takes to maintain yourself, your health, your mental health, your physical health, your well-being, your spiritual health, all of it, as a busy mother who is pouring herself into her family day in, day out. And let's not forget about the night times, right? The job doesn't end. It's a wonderful job. It's a fulfilling role. It's absolutely the most wonderful thing I've ever experienced. Yes, but it is also a huge job, a draining job, a job that takes a lot of energy to sustain. And motherhood is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It goes on and on for years and decades, and the rest of your life you will be a mother, and your adult children will still be calling on you, God willing, right? So let's talk about how we can sustain ourselves for these years now and these years ahead. I'll just talk a little about my story and share a little bit about how I found myself depleted in motherhood. Now, I did not have a background of eating a nutrient-dense diet when I entered motherhood for the first time. I became a mother around my mid to late 20s for the first time, and I did not have any insight into just how much it took from my body to grow another fresh little human. It just wasn't something that was talked about in the culture I grew up within. But I just don't remember there being any kind of education about how you should care for your body and what you would need to nourish a growing being inside your body later on in life. So as I went through pregnancy, my baby came out. My pregnancy was non-eventful. It was straightforward. I had a wonderful home birth with my first baby, and I recovered in a way that my midwife did not expect. So shortly after what was really just a straightforward birth, I think I was in labour for about 12 hours. Baby came out at home, no problems, but I just went really pale, really quick, and I was extremely weak. I did not have any blood loss, any high blood loss or anything like that, but my midwife was just surprised at my lack of energy in the days following the birth and just how hard I seemed to have taken the whole experience. And so she was really the first person who ever spoke to me about nutrient stores and vitamins and minerals and how much the baby had taken from me as a mother, and how much I now needed to pay attention to nourishing myself and how I could do that through vitamins or food or all kinds of ways like that. And she kind of brought me around some meals that were really high in leafy greens, and she really did care for me and nourish me. I was in a new place. I had no family around. I had not formed any community yet. That's a big story in itself. But she was wonderful, and she really showed me how important it was to value myself, because it would be impossible for me to adequately care for my family and my dependents if I was not healthy and strong. So she really opened that door for me, and as I went on in my mothering years and had more children, I did have periods of time where I was quite unwell. I think looking back, I really did run on stress. So I was doing things like drinking coffee a lot drinking coffee multiple times a day, every day, while having disrupted nights with newborns and things like that. This all really took a taxing toll on my adrenal glands. And then that was in conjunction with just not eating a very nutrient-dense diet. So I really wasn't taking the time to eat all the fruit, vegetables, meat, fish, eggs, fermented grains, all these good things that are full of nutrition that I needed as a breastfeeding mother. It was more just surviving on scraps from my kids, or having a sandwich, or having some pancakes, and just repeating those patterns day after day after day, instead of making sure that every meal had nourishing components and really was fueling me for the work ahead. So that's why I am passionate now about fueling myself, my family, and my kids as well as I can. And we are by no means perfect. I'm learning as I go, and I'm also only human. So there are plenty of 80-20 principles here, plenty of times where we're just eating hot chips from the shops and an ice cream cone for a birthday, and I just do not try to be 100%. That is a pure way to burn out. Now I'm just putting together a simple cream sauce to top these Swedish meatballs over linguine. I've melted some butter in the pan, added some cassava flour just to thicken it, and I've added in the last of the chicken broth that we made the other night. I think this sauce would actually be better with a higher proportion of chicken broth with a little bit of cream at the end, but just because of what I had in the fridge, it's mostly cream this time, which was still delicious. It was just a little too heavy. Better when it's mostly broth, I think. But then I've just seasoned that with some fresh thyme from the garden, salt and pepper, and some chopped garlic. Very tasty and very filling. A little bit of Parmesan cheese over the top, and I've put some chopped chives on mine, but I highly suggest it would be much better with a little bit more fresh thyme over the top if you have it. Thanks for coming by today and spending this time while I share my day homemaking with you and feeding my family and sharing a bit of my personal story with you. If you like this kind of content, please feel free to like, to comment or subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!